One of the very first journal entries in Silksong is the Moss Mother. Hornet's commentary reads, "Motherhood is an instinct that can push creatures beyond what seems their natural limits. It turns even weaker beasts like this into formidable foes." Chakra has an absent mother and motherly relationship with her master, who she grieves when she finds out she's dead. Huntress had a whole quest tied to motherhood, in which she says, "Is it shameful? A mother who would not sacrifice herself for her children to grow strong? Is it wrong to want? To witness their first flight, their first hunt? To see them kill and grow?" The Bell Beast is a mother, and at the end of her quest at the beginning of Act 3, it's revealed she has babies. The reason why I love these seemingly irrelevant narrative elements is that they perfectly foreshadow the events of the game's story. Silksong's central theme is motherhood, and the character at its center is the villain, Grandmother Silk. As with all pale beings we have seen, Grandmother Silk wants worship and devotion. This is true for all pale beings, the most obvious example being the Pale King. Contrary to him, however, she does not grant her subjects an idea or a mind. Instead, she evolves the lesser creatures, the Farlids, into the Weavers, her daughters. The Weavers obviously don't like to work for their creator for all their lives, so they slowly start to rebel. They build weave nests where Grandmother Silk's silk would never be able to reach them, and devise plans to dethrone their matriarch. But they are simply not powerful enough to truly kill Grandmother Silk. Eventually they flee, leaving their mother alone, and she unleashes her madness on Farloon. The original Hollow Knight had a theme of fatherhood in its main plot, with the protagonists discovering what their father, the Pale King, had done, although the theme of motherhood is much more well developed and present in Silksong. Given that one of the game's main themes is motherhood, Grandmother Silk is the perfect villain for this story. But we can't fully discuss this character without bringing up her relationship with her daughters, Phantom and Lace. Unlike the Weavers, they are both beings of silk. Let's start with Phantom. We can see from the diary's entry that they were tasked alone to expel the Citadel's choking refuse. This creates the common misconception that Phantom was discarded by Grandmother Silk because they were a failed creation, which is why they're fading, and that their sister Lace is a successful attempt. However, the game actually seems to imply the opposite. Fading is an inherent part of the Silkspan children's being, and Phantom's current state is the result of their mother's abandonment. Then we have Lace, who is referred to as a child-spun frail, in the dialogue that plays during the collection sequence for the silk heart that you get for defeating her. And in the Hunter's Journal, Hornet states that much silk would have been needed to see her sustained. Moreover, in the hidden needle in dialogue in the exhaust organ, while it's unclear whether Phantom or Lace is speaking, it is said that she spun as to break, implying that breaking is something that applies to both of them. In terms of why Grandmother Silk would essentially create her artificial children with a built-in chronic illness, the answer is quite simple: to keep them loyal to her. Her children will wither away without a constant supply of silk from their mother. They can never leave her side, unlike the Weavers. Lace is treated like an object with no free will by Grandmother Silk, but deep down she wishes her mother could love her back. I think this is why, during the opening cutscene, she attempts to free Hornet. Lace believes that Hornet is Grandmother Silk's preferred child. She does not want to lose her status with her mother. Both Lace and the Pure Vessel are artificially created constructs, which Grandmother Silk and the Pale King fashioned to serve their own ends, thought to be empty shells. Lace being literally empty inside, since she is made of only thread. Their personalities and appearances are opposites. Although they both vaguely look like knights, one is tall and stoic, the other tiny and hysterical. The Pale King hated doing what he did. He loved the Pure Vessel, and his guilt crushed him. In turn, the Pure Vessel became attached to their father to the point that it caused the kingdom's downfall. They tried their hardest to be what would be needed, resigning themselves to their fate. Grandmother Silk, meanwhile, deliberately made Lace weak in mind and body so she would never betray the Grandmother, as a replacement for the Weavers. As a result, Lace hates herself and is full of spite and pettiness, directly attributing this to Grandmother Silk. So in short, Grandmother Silk is a divine matriarch whose version of love is so twisted that it always ends in subjugation. She does not understand love the way we understand it. Her obsession over a perfect child that never grows older, or matures emotionally, led her to create two silk daughters whose entire existence is tainted by the fact that they can never experience the warmth of their mother, who is sleeping in her cocoon, unconscious about most of her decisions. She gave the Weavers false divinity and wanted devotion, not love, back. Hornet and Lace both share the parallel of having mothers who conceived them for a seemingly higher purpose, but ultimately simply out of the desire to have a child and care for them. And they both grapple with it in different ways. The Red Memory in Act 3 debunks the theory that Hera had Hornet with the Pale King only for purposes of strength. Hera genuinely cared for Hornet above everything and encouraged her to forge her own path. An element that took me by surprise during Act 3's ending was seeing that Grandmother Silk's efforts were to save Hornet and Lace rather than fight off the Void to save herself. And no wonder Lace's reaction at the end is one last bitter laugh at how ridiculous it all is. I really like that Team Cherry made this choice. It doesn't mean that Grandmother Silk was good all along. It means that sometimes people who hurt you will do things that make you feel conflicting emotions. They could have made Grandmother Silk a one-dimensional villain, but they didn't. She's undeniably a villain, but just like the Pale King, she has layers. In the end, I think she desperately wanted to be a mother, but drove her children away from her because she fundamentally misunderstood what love is. Excluding the Twisted Child ending, in all endings, Hornet ends up replacing Grandmother Silk. I believe this is true also for the true ending, where Hornet replaces Grandmother Silk's role, but in this one, it is just as a mentor to Lace. Hornet not only sees her similarly to the vessels she grew up alongside and ended up caring for, but she also sees their own similarities. And I think this ending is fitting for both of them. Hornet will have someone by her side after spending much of her existence alone and after losing her sibling. And Lace will finally be able to break free from the toxic relationship with Grandmother Silk, and develop a hopefully stable one with someone else. They will work together and break this cycle of abuse.